everybody. Professor Jeff Wilkerson, once again from Luther College, talking to you about what to look for in the night sky. And this time we're going to talk about the week of December 21st. So we're getting close to the end of the year. And we're getting to the point where I've done enough of these videos, and you've seen enough of these videos. I'm sure you've watched every one. I don't know why you wouldn't have. We've done enough of these that I've forgotten a little bit about some of the details of what we've talked about. But I know that for sure a couple of different times I've recommended that you go look at the summer triangle. And I'm going to do it one more time here. And it's really interesting to say we call this the summer triangle because it's three bright stars that appear high overhead, brighter than all of the neighbor stars around in late summer. A beautiful August thing to see shortly after it gets dark. But here we are, and in what some ways could be called midwinter. As we go through this week, we've already passed the shortest day of the year in terms of daylight. And so if you're measuring winter in terms of how much daylight is there, we're past the midpoint of that winter. The days are getting longer. If you measure your winter in terms of sunset time, we passed the earliest sunset a few weeks ago. Maybe we'll talk about that next week, how that works geometry-wise. I know you're excited to talk more and more about geometry. We got a little geometry going on today. We can just do this a lot here. But anyway, if we go back and we look at the summer triangle right now, if you go out in the evening, a little bit after dark, you don't have to hurry, but you go out a little bit after dark, you can see the summer triangle on the western horizon. Still pretty plainly there. Deneb is shining fairly brightly, fairly high in the sky, and Deneb is in Cygnus the Swan. The swan is flying down the river of the Milky Way, this long neck of the swan right here with the wings across here. It looks like a cross standing up on the western horizon right now after dark. And Vega in the constellation Lyra over here is a little bit further down, and Altair is much further down and further south and closer to the horizon. You might need a pretty good western horizon, not a lot of obstruction in order to be able to see Altair. But you can see the summer triangle here in what we could argue is bleak midwinter, halfway through the past the halfway point of photo period winter. And so what's going on? We want to talk about, well, what the heck is happening here that we can see something we call the summer triangle really all year long. And so to do that, we're going to talk about circumpolar stars and the rotation of the Earth just a little bit. And so if you imagine this is the Earth, so the Earth is here spinning around. There you go. You've got your Earth spinning around this way. That's you, standing almost on top of the world. That's you. And this angle, that's the equator. And this angle is your latitude. That angle between where you're standing and the equator is your latitude. So you look that up on a globe. For me, that's about 43 degrees north. That angle is about 43 degrees. 90 degrees would be a right angle all the way up here to the North Pole. Okay, above the North Pole is what we call the North Celestial Pole. And as the Earth spins, you can imagine having a stick attached to this that sweeps a circle out, but that stick that's pointed straight at the North Pole doesn't sweep any kind of circle. It just sits there and spins round and round. So the part that's on our rotational axis, anything that's on our rotational axis, doesn't appear to move across the sky. And thus we have the North Star. The North Star's famous because it's stationary in the sky, very close to stationary, not quite, directly above the North geographical pole right here. So it always points to geographical north. And so we look to north there, and we can find it right now by looking at the Big Dipper. And if you look at the Big Dipper, you can find it anytime by looking at the Big Dipper. The Big Dipper looks like this. And you come out here, you got the curve in the handle right there. These are the pointer stars in the Big Dipper. You got to curve just a little bit right, but you get to the North Star up here is the end star in the handle of the Little Dipper. And so you see Polaris is our North Star right there. Now, when you go out in the evening right now, just a little bit after dark, you go out to look at the summer triangle in the west, turn and look due north. And if you have a good northern horizon, you can see the Big Dipper is skimming pretty low on the horizon right now. As you get later at night, or as we work our way through spring and earlier in the evening, it's going to be climbing high up into the sky, but it will always point. It's making a circle around that North Star, and it will always point to the North Star. So this is something great for you to go out and see. And if we get back to this, we can say, here you are standing. At any given time, you can see about half the sky. you can see the half that's up here above you. The half that's down here is below the earth. We said it hasn't risen yet, or it's already set. You can't see the stuff that's below your feet because the earth's blocking it. Okay? So you can see this here, and it says that anything that's here never sets or never rises. It's always above the horizon, like the Big Dipper here. It might get down very close to the horizon, but it doesn't climb up, get below the horizon. So anything that's in that range right here, you can always see it. It never gets down here below the earth. And if you look at that and say, we tilted this up to be our latitude, that says anything that's an angle within our latitude of the North Pole, of the Polaris, will be up in our sky all the time. The technical word we use for that is circumpolar. We say a circumpolar star is a star that never rises or sets, or an object. It could be a galaxy. It could be anything that's circumpolar. Okay? So for me, I said that latitude is about 43 degrees. And so where I am right now at 43 degrees, I could go over here and say anything that's within 43 degrees of the North Celestial Pole will actually never set. Deneb is 45 degrees away from the North Celestial Pole, so it sets, and it's certainly something that's 43 degrees will look like it sets because there are trees and there are hills and there are things in the foreground that stuff will hide behind and you'll lose sight of it. But Deneb is out of sight for a pretty short time because it's really close to being circumpolar, being within 45 degrees of the North Celestial Pole for me. So that's why I can see this. Right now for me, the sun sets a little bit after 4:30. So the sun sets maybe 4:40. It's getting a little bit later. It's getting, a little bit later each night now. And so the sun sets about 4:40. Deneb doesn't set until 2:30 in the morning, almost 2:30 in the morning. And so Deneb is up for a long time after sunset, even though it's part of the summer triangle. Altair will be up about 4 hours after sunset, and Vega up maybe about 6 hours after sunset. Again, you'll lose sight of them sooner than that because of obstructions on the horizon. But that's the idea, is to say that these things, the whole summer triangle is up pretty far in the sky. Deneb is there the most because it's the closest to circumpolar. This is about 62 degrees from the North Celestial Pole, Vega. And so if it's 62 degrees, it definitely spends a little more time below the horizon. Remember, things need to be within about 43 degrees for them to be circumpolar for me here in Decorah. And so it spends more time below the horizon. And Altair, which is the hardest to see right now, will spend the most time of the summer triangle below the horizon because it's 81 degrees away from the North Celestial Pole. So it's down there pretty close to the horizon. When it gets dark right now, and it'll dip below the horizon tonight. If you go out and look at it any night, you go out and look at it soon. And so it is definitely the hardest to see of the summer triangle stars. But all of them are up right now, and Deneb will be up any night of the year. You can see Deneb. There's relatively easily. Sometimes you have to go out early in the morning. Sometimes you have to go out right after sunset to get your best view of it. But as I said, for this week, it's going to be setting sometime around 2:30 in the morning, maybe a little earlier than 2:30 in the morning as we progress through here. But that means it's up most of the time that it's dark. So that's what we've got going on. We've got the fact that stars that are closer to the North Pole, for those of us in the northern hemisphere, are up in the sky longer. And so even though we call this the summer triangle, it is beautiful right now to go out and see Deneb, see Cygnus standing up on the horizon and Vega down one direction and Altair down the other direction. Go look at the summer triangle. It's a wonderful thing to see right now. And worth that, the view, and think about what we looked at. Go back and watch the videos from August and September and think about what we've talked about with the summer triangle before, and recognize that, in 6 or 8 months, it's going to be back up very high overhead in shortly after evening, after sunset in the evening sky. And so you'll have a great chance to see this again. So go out, watch the summer triangle this week. Enjoy the week, everybody, and I hope you have a good one. We'll talk more next week.